Craig?
Here.
Mr. Craig?
Here.
Mr. Camus? Mrs. Michelli? Ms. Martinelli? Here. Mr. Michaels?
Present.
Mr. Chalk?
Here. There being a quorum, we should now dispense with matters of business before this council. First, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 3rd, 2013.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Mr. Michaels, second by Mr. Craig. Question? Okay. Corrections, clarifications, or additions? Roll call vote.
Mrs. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Ms. Martinelli?
I understand I wasn't present.
Mr. Michaels?
Yes.
Mr. Chalk?
Yes. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the work session held on June 18th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Michael, second by Ms. Craig. On the question, corrections, clarifications, or additions? Noted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ms. Martinelli abstained. Motion passed. Communications.
We had discussed having different refuse companies come in to see about doing a bulk collection. I received one quote from J.P. Mascaro. J.P. Mascaro can provide a bulk collection for the residents of 44 at the cost of $29,000. This would be for a one-time collection of bulk items at curbside for all households in the borough. Certain restrictions would apply, such as hazardous waste, batteries, auto parts, chemicals, electronic, and construction debris. I did send an email and asked for clarification as to those items that are allowed and how many of those items can be put out at curbside, and I didn't receive a response back. So I don't know if council wants to think about that, because I think that's a very important item.
I think that's pretty exorbitant. All right.
Well, related question. When I got home, I found a little flyer about pickup up to including July 6th from some company, and they would pick up appliances, and you sent anything else?
I don't have any idea who that could be from. That's the first I'm hearing of it.
I didn't know if.
It could be just someone soliciting for business, I don't know.
But that was what we discussed with the white appliances and
No.
everything.
But no. We also received a letter, Families for 44th Park. Dear members of council, Families for 44th Park is a newly formed group whose primary objectives are to foster recreational activities in the 44th Park and to encourage family use of the park. In addition to our free movie in the park scheduled for Wednesday, July 3rd, we are planning a dip and dance at the pool Friday, July 12th, and a craft fair in the park on Sunday, July 28th. All monies raised at these events will be donated to 44 boroughs. It's actually a 15% match for the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development Greenway, Trails, and Recreation grants to restore and rehabilitate our park and pool. We are requesting that council waive the pool rental and lifeguard fees for our event on July 12th and the transient mercantile fee for vendors wishing to participate in the July 28th craft fair. Thank you for your support of our efforts to keep the park and pool part of what makes 44 a special place to live and play. Sincerely, Amy Craig, Sarah Michaels, Susan Tazinski, Donna Kilgore, Tammy Fetterman, Ashley Stuccio, Deanna Ryder, Christy Wilson, and Debbie Pepe.
Is there a motion from council?
I'll move that we waive the lifeguard fee, the pool rental fee, and the transient mercantile fee for those vendors, for those events.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Craig, second by Ms. Martinelli. On the question?
Okay, only question I have, and it's just a clarification. The first event, dip and dance,
Right.
Now, that would act as some type of fundraiser?
Yes,
Oh, okay, how would the people have to pay to get in?
yes.
Okay.
And it's the same price that they would pay if they came during the day. It would be $4 a person, children under 2 free.
Okay.
And there's going to be music for dancing and the pool for tipping.
So the revenue would simply come in from people coming in to attend the
Yes.
event, is that cool?
Yes.
Now, what about people that have the badges for the year?
People that have passes will come for free.
Okay, so the only money, the only extra revenue we would get would be from those people that don't have a seasonal pass, let's call it, right?
And they're also doing, you know, like virgin pina coladas and, you know, like strawberry daiquiris
Right.
and that type of thing.
No, I just wondering how.
It's like a pilot program, and all the money is coming back to the borough.
Right.
Well, no, I have no problem with that, but I was just wondering how the revenue, you know, would be a thing. The other question I have then is for, I think you said July 28th, you know, the pass fair? How does the revenue come in for that if we're not charging the vendors a fee?
We are charging, what they want to do is charge the vendors a fee for the space that they use,
Okay,
all right?
and how much would that fee be?
They're still working, probably they're thinking about $25 a table. Most other places, from what we understand, are $50 a table.
Right.
So the vendors come, they give us the $25, they have their table set up, and then they sell their crafts or whatever. And whatever money they make, they make.
Okay.
Bottom line is, the space, I mean, it's, hopefully, you know, we get 25 people coming, it's $625.
Now, the other question that I have, because I've been to similar events, when we're charging them X amount of dollars at the table,
Mhm.
do we stipulate the standard table size? Because I've been to some craft fair where I've seen tables that are, oh my God, where did they get this table from? And, you know, a lot of times it's unfair for one person.
I don't think it's, you know, if you have 4 tables, it's $100. I think it's more, you know, 25, you know, it's called a table fee, but it's, you know, $25 per person.
And they can then set up as many tables as they need.
Yeah, it's not like it's a short of space.
Now, this mercantile, is that right? Mercantile?
A transient mercantile fee where they have to pay a certain amount. You know, like the people that are selling the fireworks and that kind of thing. And the thing is, I mean, we're not talking big time vendors. We're talking, you know, people that sell candle fragrances and that kind of thing. And by the time they pay the mercantile fee and a large table fee, et cetera, if it's gonna cost them $50 or $60 to come, they're not gonna come.
Now, last question I have, what about if this committee is approached by a nonprofit organization that would like to come in and sell something?
They're welcome to buy table space as well.
Okay, that's the clarification that I
Yes.
wanted. Okay, and not that I'm pointing a finger at anybody, but let's just say there was an affiliated nonprofit organization from an elementary school that, you know, their PTO or something like that wanted to use it as a fundraiser for the school. You know, nonprofit and stuff like that. Anybody that comes in and sells anything,
That's right.
crafts, and anything that they sell, they get charged $25. There's no such thing as nonprofit or not-for-profit.
No, because this is a fundraiser for families from
Right.
44 Park. And all of which will go towards our match for the grant to refurbish the park and the pool.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Any other communications? All right, I have one. Mayor and council, as per our commitment, Quad 3 has completed the installation of the eyewash station at the Borough Pool and posted the required informational plaque. The unit was tested and is operational, and I'm closing the equipment information. We suggest that you periodically test the equipment, and I have attached a proposed law for this purpose. As indicated at the council meeting, Quad 3 is paying for the station, the necessary installation parts, and donating the installation labor. The overall value of the project is $670. A check from Quad 3 in the amount of $562.65, the cost of the station being processed and be forwarded to the borough. If you have any additional concerns or questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as Borough Engineers. Best regards, Michael Lombardo. And I'll pass through, there's a picture along with the letter showing you what it looks like.
Joe, can I just ask a question on that? Can we include that as part of the match? funds?
Yes. Well, I don't know because it's
It's
already
already
done.
done, I don't think you can.
Even though we donate?
Clarification on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
And Barb, did you say before that it's only a 15% match that we have to come up with, not a 20? So what's the amount of grant? Is it a $300,000 grant?
250,000, we have to come with 50,000.
That's 20%.
That's not,
25, it's 25,
Let me look at my,
25% of the size of the borough.
I thought it said 20% since we're a population of less than 5,000.
hold on one
I
second.
didn't bring my with me.
I thought it was 15, 25.
Flood mitigation, I think, is 15%.
Well, while we're looking at, my mind's working at a slower pace than normal. If I can, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It is 20%, and it's because we're 5,000.
20? Okay.
yeah, so it's a $300,000 grant we have to match.
It's 250.
250,000.
So
Yes, it's 200, oh, okay, so it's 250, we have to come up with 50.
Yeah.
All right, I thought that was the,
$300,000 project, 250.
Joe, if I could just go back to something previously that we talked about, and with Sam here, I just want to make sure that we're covered. For the Dip and Dunk and the Craft Fair in July, because we approved this, the insurance comes under the umbrella of 44 insurance, or does that organization have to take out their own insurance?
We would need clarification from our carrier to directly answer your question.
I spoke to our carrier, and it would be under general liability insurance, and if anyone large has a certificate of insurance, they should provide that.
Maybe by large.
Should have said large company. I
Yeah, at
can
least
clarify
this-
that for you.
Yeah, at least this way, God forbid something happens, at least we're covered. Going back, one other thing, because I saw the flyer on the door over here. The movie in the park this Wednesday, July 3rd. Just so that we're on safe ground, is this something that we've already approved so that we're covered under insurance? Or do we have to have a separate motion to approve that?
Right, a motion to approve that.
We discussed it at the work session.
I remember that, but just, you know, so that we get covered under the umbrella of insurance. You know, I don't know if we ever formally approved it.
No.
So at least, you know, if we approve it tonight, at least we're covered under insurance.
Yeah, you
All right.
forward to the insurance company.
Need a motion to approve Families for 44 Park, movie in the park on Wednesday, July 3rd at 9 p.m.
Okay, so move. Is there a second? Second? One question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
At least this way, Dottie, we're covered insurance well.
Okay. Residents and taxpayers' comments, petitions regarding agenda items only.
before you do that, have the residents seen the latest agenda?
Is there, and I saw comments on the rabbit.
Because there were additions to the agenda, we just got a new agenda on our president's agenda.
What other copies available? Yeah, right over here.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anybody wishing to address the agenda? Anybody? I entertain a motion to adopt the treasurer's report of June 30th, 2013 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Michaels, second by Ms. Martinelli. Question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Engineers report. Mike, you have anything?
No, not to do.
Okay. I know we're going to talk about the sewer project on our general business. I'll entertain a motion, Toto, to accept the reports of the, I'm not sure what we have.
I do not have a WDSA report.
Police, code, Kingston Fire. Is that it? Missing one? Okay. Motion, Toto, to accept the reports of the Marion Police Department, Kingston Fire Chief, and Code Enforcement Officer.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Michaels.
Joe, if I may move it for a second. Steve, I'd like to thank you for lighting a fire under the owner of that property at the corner of Hughes and Murray.
Okay.
You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Right.
Seems as though they, I know especially yesterday, they had somebody working there the greater part of the day.
I would have- it would have
It seems
been-
as though for some reason, okay, and I'm suspecting that you put quite a fire under them.
Yeah, that would have been
Trying to
either
get
Tom
some-
or Alan, but
Yeah,
thank
they're
you.
getting significant with that.
Good.
Is there a second to accept the reports?
I would second to accept the report from Mayor and Police Department, 44 Volunteer Fire Chief, and Kingston Fire Chief. I would like to know if there was some kind of verification on code enforcement, that this is true and accurate.
Wait a second. Wait, there is a report, volunteer fire chief report?
I know.
That's from last time.
I don't think it was for this meeting.
Okay, so second to the Kingston Fire Chief, Mayor, and Police Department. I will second that motion.
Mayor, Fire Chief.
Just the mayor and fire chief.
So Mr. Michael's motion is different. So,
Okay, I'll rescind my motion to accept in toto the reports
Let's
as
do it.
designated before with the exception of the volunteer fire chief.
okay, let's do it this way.
Okay.
I'm entertaining a motion to accept the report of the Marion Police Department. By Mr. Craig,
Second.
second by Mrs. Craig. On the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, I'm entertaining a motion to accept the report of the Kingston Fire Chief.
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Michael, second by Ms. Martinelli. On the question, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, I'm entertaining a motion to accept the report of the code enforcement officer.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Michaels. Sam, as a point of order, I can second the motion. I'll second that motion. On the question. questions on the report?
I have a question.
Sure.
Have all of these costs and collected fees been verified?
Steve's submitting the report. Steve, yours.
There would be Kingston fee may not have been collected, and Wyoming's fee would not have been collected because this is the amount they are billed for June. As far as the other fees, to the best of my knowledge, they have been collected. Or at least have been billed for the month of June. I would have to go through the records.
Is there a particular reason why you're asking the question?
Yeah, it relates to other matters on the agenda.
Okay. So you're concerned that this is not accurate? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You're requesting full vote? Or roll call vote?
Mrs. Craig?
No.
Mr. Craig?
No.
Ms. Barnelli?
No.
Mr. Michaels?
Yes.
Mr. Chuck?
Yes. Motion failed. Report's not accepted. Sam, I guess it's just, that's it.
Yeah, we don't have a report
Okay.
this month.
Okay. Next, I'll entertain a motion to engage Attorney John G. Dean of Elliott, Greenleaf, and Dean as special counsel pursuant to the engagement letter to conduct an independent investigation of the Code Enforcement Department due to several alleged improprieties and the alleged individuals involved.
So moved.
Mr. Michaels?
At this time, I move to table that until after our executive session.
Okay. So how do we take an
I don't
order
know.
of motion?
What is the executive session issue in general that you want me to?
Has a rate been established for this lawyer?
Yes.
Has it been published to the public?
Council has just received it.
Uh,
We'll certainly share it.
Rob, let me just kind of, you have concerns for executive session for personnel reasons?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is, you know, this, first of all, this was just given to us right now.
Let me
Before we've had any chance to discuss it, so
I understand. And let me just give some background, if I can, for the benefit of council and the benefit of the public. I was contacted and met personally with a concerned citizen from the borough. And he had brought to my attention some allegations that would be, if true, he would have been the target of some political not wrongdoing as much as just targeting for political purposes, okay? I immediately contacted Joe about the allegations because they concerned me greatly. And then I hear from Joe that there are other allegations of both citizens and elected officials that are either being potentially unfairly treated in terms of being picked on or perhaps allegedly receiving favorable treatment. And so, you know, Joe had asked me for some advice and some opinions on that, and I said to Joe that that one is something that maybe we can deal with, two, we can investigate. I was aware of 4 different allegations that, again, if true, are inappropriate. Either someone's being picked on inappropriately or selectively enforced, or others perhaps receiving favorable treatment inappropriately. So at that point, it was my suggestion to Joe that we at least, you know, I don't know how many members of council are aware of this thing swirling. So I said, Joe, at the very least, given the timeline that we have between now and the next meeting, why don't I at least explore getting independent counsel to do an independent investigation where he will interview everyone who has a concern or an allegation. He will investigate those allegations and generate a written report so that council has some basis to at least take action if there's necessary action to be taken against an employee, or to refer it to an appropriate authority if it warrants that. So having said that, and there's no obligation of council to take this firm or this step. This is just because I didn't want to let us come here tonight based upon the meeting I had, which really troubled me. Then when I hear there's other allegations going different directions, I said something has to be done to Joe. So I contacted someone who I know has done this recently for a school district out of county where there was an investigation done of a superintendent for some allegations of wrongdoing. So I had contacted Jack Dean. Jack was kind enough to quickly put together an engagement letter and get it to me for council's review. By no means do we want to tell you that you have to select this firm as a council and to appoint this firm. And in answer to Mr. Schwabach's question, if the hourly rate is $165 an hour, it's capped at $4,000. So that was the quote. So I think what I wanted to do, I wanted to make sure when we came here tonight that council knows and the public knows that because of what was brought to my attention, and then when I heard of the other allegations, we weren't going to not do anything and wait till we got here tonight. We wanted to at least get the ball rolling. If council wants to basically see if there's other firms that will do this or other private entities that will do this, that's great. But we wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we were going to be proactive about it, because they bothered me a lot. And I know that once Joe heard the stuff that I heard, and Joe was sharing with me some of the things that he's heard. And again, we don't want to be put on a witch hunt, but by the same token, I was presented with objective evidence that bothered me. Okay? So I think that this is a prudent course. I recommended this. It doesn't have to be done this way. It's not mandated by the borough code that we do this. I just think that it might be a way that we could let an independent person look at all of this factually, interview anyone who has some sort of concern, whether it's a member of the public, whether it's a member of council, and then they can interview whoever needs to be interviewed, look at the documents and records. You know, I know we didn't pass our report tonight. Not that that's the subject of any allegations, but those things can all be looked at, and then if there's a recommendation to be made of disciplinary action, if there's a finding of no wrongdoing, or if there's a recommendation that needs to be referred out to other sources. Candidly, what may come from this is just a suggested change in protocol on how we handle some things too. That may happen as well. So I don't want to alarm anyone, but again, if this was just one thing, one person came to me, I'd say, hey, let's look into this, let's resolve it. But when I start hearing the cross things that are going on, I think that's what causes me concern. I'm aware of 4 different allegations, any one of which would be wrong. So that's how we got to this point. So I don't want anyone to think, and this all kind of evolved over the last week or so.
Excuse me, are these allegations in writing? You, attorney, said here a couple times, you used the word here, so I'm just curious.
I met with a resident who provided me with a memo of what his concerns were. He was very interested in perhaps releasing that. I don't know that whether he has or he has not. I intend to provide that correspondence to the investigator if council decides to go that route. So that's where I am with it at this point. But because it makes allegations against people that may harm them, if we go the route of the investigator, I'd rather just give that information that I have to him. The other stuff, I don't know about whether there's something in writing or not. I don't know. I can only speak about the person I met with.
If there's no motion, is it okay for to comment on Sam's comments? Or
We can talk about it now. What I don't want to do is I want to make sure that we're very careful in the executive session, only dealing with executive session matters. I don't want to kind of get off on tangents, and that's why I wanted to make everybody here know what's going on.
Right.
What we're talking about.
And I'm acting in this matter because in history I've been accused of not acting swiftly enough, or not being transparent enough. So I chose to present this publicly for council to discuss publicly.
Right, so let's talk about this after we have a chance to discuss it.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. Rob, you know the parameters that we always have in there, so I'm okay with it.
Sam, we're going to specifically stick to things that are covered by executive session.
Yes, we have to, of course. I know nothing more than what I've just said. Well, I mean, I know the letter that I have, but that's fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
There's two motions on the floor.
Is there a
Shall we
second?
withdraw that?
If Frank wants to withdraw his motion, that he may do so, and then we can table this until after these.
Can I request that both people that made motions withdraw until after the executive session?
Well, my motion was to table this particular agenda item until after the executive session.
Okay.
So you can bring it back.
It all rescind my motion until,
All right, is there a second to the table?
Second.
Okay.
That was done.
Any questions, Dottie? Okay, the motion is to table this agenda item to after the executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's tabled, or agenda item is tabled. Next, I entertain a motion to adopt the Luzerne County Memorandum of Understanding for the Hazard Mitigation Plan, 5-year plan, and municipal representative will be Barbara Fairchild.
so moved.
Moved by Mr. Michaels, second by Mrs. Craig. On the question? Or you sent this out there, I think, right? It was on all those.
I think I discussed it as a work session.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 11 of 2013 for the Penworks grant application for $1 million and appoint Barbara Fairchild as designee to sign all documents.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Craig, second by Ms. Martinelli. Any question? We discussed this, I think, not the last work session, but the work session prior.
In May.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, I will take a motion to adopt resolution number 12 of 2013 for a Penworks loan application for $1,977,475 and appoint Barbara Fairchild as designee to sign all documents.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Michael, second by Ms. Craig. No question. Goes hand in hand with the previous resolution. And I just want to note for the record, and I know Barbara expressed these concerns to me last week, when she was putting it together. It should be noted that there are stringent economic development requirements for this application, so it's going to be highly competitive, and just so council's aware of that, there are stringent economic development requirements. So hopefully we meet some of them, and we can
I did get a letter from Mr. Miracle that I could create 55 jobs, which is favoring, in our favor. And also, when I spoke to Susan Orr, she said that it was $125 million, and it was cut down to 17.
invest or better. Okay.
125 to 17.
All those
Oh, my
in
Barbara page up.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Motion to adopt resolution number 13 of 2013 for the Greenways, Trails, and Recreation application for $250,000. And appoint Barbara Fairchild as designee to sign all documents.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Craig, second by Ms. Martinelli. Question?
This is the one for excavating for, right?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, I entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 14 of 2013 for the flood mitigation application and appoint Barbara Fairchild as designee to sign all documents.
I may ask council, due to my meeting with the Gowers, they're not really in favor of the pump station. Thursday, we had a very bad storm. Our creek is very badly damaged. If we're not able to come to some sort of terms with the Gowers, would I entertain using the creek for flood mitigation purposes? When we had our DEP inspection, they had made some suggestions and also said that we could apply for some work to be done for the creek. So
I'll leave my opinion, Barbara. This is your This is your job to make that decision. And we're authorizing you to make the application. I think council is, whatever flood mitigation we can take care of in the borough, we want to take care of. I just want council to be aware there's a long-standing issue that's known as the Gower property. It's been the subject of council meetings for 12 years, since I've been here prior to that. We've done some work down there. There's a duckbill valve or flap gate, whatever it's called, installed down there. We asked Quad 3 to take a look at what happens now is when the river rises, the flap gate closes, and the stormwater system backs up there and comes out. What we do now is we take we have two trash pumps that we take down there, set up, and use so they don't get flooded. Quad 3 has a solution, a permanent solution, where we can install something and most of it would be subsurface, some would be above ground, that would automatically trigger when necessary. That we wouldn't have to worry about having a trash pump, sending the men out there, and obviously if we're doing this, there's something going on where we can be using the men other places. Barbara scheduled a meeting with property owners. They weren't in favor of having this installed on the property. I just want council to be aware that there is an opportunity for a permanent solution to a problem that we know about, they know about, and the property owner is not in favor of it. So we attempted to address it, and at this point, they're refusing. I'm going to ask that Barbara send them a formal letter making one last pitch to them to allow us to do this on their property. And let them know there's no guarantee that trash pump will be there every single time this happens.
Well, didn't we pay like a couple, $20,000 2-3 years ago to I thought get a permanent fix for this duct bill?
That is working, and we did that. We actually had to fix it twice, if you remember.
Yeah.
Bill has worked.
What happens, Rob, is the duct bill, what the previous engineers and what the street department thought was happening was water was coming in from the river up through the storm system. But that's not what's happening. The duct bill is actually functioning properly, and it's preventing the river from doing that. What's happening is, that's the lowest point in the entire storm sewer system. And we Swarsville, all the water comes here to go out to the river. And what's happening is when that gate shuts, all the storm water backs up, and that's when it rises. So that's what floods it.
So do we accept stormwater from other communities then?
Yes.
Yes, my knowledge, at least anyway.
So is this fixed then? I mean, isn't there any way to kind of get them to be on the hook for this as well, since they're partially contributing?
There is an opportunity for us to have this paid for. Was it 50%? We can have this taken care of by a state grant. What the issue is that property owners don't want this constructed on their property. So it would be a minimal cost to the borough.
How much is this fix?
It's about almost 470 some thousand.
Okay, well, 15% of $400,000 is $120,000.
If you took out what I'm saying, Rob, is if you take out all the times we're down there doing this, and what we submit to FEMA, I don't want to say a number, but it's several thousand or tens of thousands of dollars every time we do this. If you look just over the last 6 years, how many times we've been down there doing this.
Oh, I know.
We would save that money in 5-6 years. And not have to worry about it, not have to use manpower to go down there, because they have to check it every so many hours to make sure it still has gas and still working.
Right.
There would be a lot of savings there. So yes, we can look at that other option. What I want council to be aware of is that there is a solution. Property owners are not, at this point, interested.
Let's stick it above ground if we don't like it.
I don't have.
What's the solution here, Mike?
Rob, I'm not really sure.
It's a subsurface pumping station.
Yeah, our engineers looked at that.
I mean, is there any other solutions other than that one solution proposed?
The only other solution is to redo our storm sewer system, which would be millions of dollars. So.
Because we'd have to go several streets.
Yeah.
And
So where's the Gower property? Is that on Center Street?
On River Street.
On the river.
And does this have to be located on their property? Could it be located where the?
Well, it would have to be able to pump out to the river.
But it could be located at that itself.
Would be adjacent to, or on top of, or next to.
It would actually be almost on top of it, it's like right at the edge of it.
Yeah, the drain's almost like in the middle of their property, it's in a real low spot.
It's like a ponding area that the county has said that is.
The county basically said this is designed to flood. It should flood. Yeah, a little bit. And the other issue, as everybody knows, is that once their property starts flooding, Center Street starts flooding, Dilly Street starts flooding.
Correct.
So that would solve all the, it should solve, I shouldn't say it will solve, it should solve all those other issues at the same time. But we don't, at this point, we don't have cooperation of the project, so.
Okay, so we still have to come up with 15% of $400,000 to pay for this. And this is gonna sound incredibly callous and this is terrible. Please don't be obvious, don't take this the wrong way. Right now, we get reimbursed by FEMA for all of.
No, we were denied a lot in the last event.
Correct, we don't get everything.
Okay. Okay. All right, well, I mean, this is just an application.
It's just an application,
It's
it's
an
an
application, okay.
And so Barbara, what my thoughts are, and I'll leave this in your hands, and council can chime in however they feel. My position is, I think, make one last ditch effort to that, give them a deadline, and if not, then proceed with the Abraham Lincoln pre
I don't know, maybe.
application. Which we do have a small budget. Every year. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, I missed to make a motion.
Oh, did we not do that?
I don't think so.
Okay, okay, so I asked for a motion, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Motion.
Mr. Craig. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Michaels. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Motion to adopt the amendment to the noise ordinance as presented.
That included the change, right,
Yes.
Sam?
Yes.
Okay.
About the weekends.
Weekends and holidays?
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Craig, second by Ms. Martinelli. Question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, I entertain a motion to adopt the West Side COG ordinance as presented.
So moved.
Second.
By Mr. Craig, second by Ms. Martinelli. Question?
What were the fees associated with this again?
$100 a year.
That was $400.
Okay.
This is-
But this then opens up a lot of potential opportunities for us to get involved with the municipalities and with raising children. Okay.
And it does have an escape clause.
Yes, it does. There is an escape clause in there, right? Should I borrow the one to get out of here?
Sam reviewed everything.
Yes. We actually did an extra package. We think that the COG.
We gotta have it on.
And we did an extra package.
Yes.
But just to be, it's double advertising. I think that issue, that concern was raised at the work session. We did it.
Historically, we don't want to say.
No, it's not, it's a mobile home, that doesn't get right.
Okay.
Did you think?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, probably.
Motion
The
passed.
White House forgot.
Next, I'll entertain a motion to advertise the, we're calling the mowing ordinance.
Is that emailed to us?
It was presented at the last meeting, at the last work session.
And someone had asked a question, according to my notes, about the judicial process for posting the property, and I don't know if that was completely clarified.
I don't remember who asked that question, Sam, I think the question is, in the ordinance, we give them 48 hours after the first notice, and 70, and then an additional 24 after the second. I guess somebody raised a question as to, how do we verify that they received the notice?
Those are, we either have to serve them, I would suggest serving them in person, publicly posting, and documenting some proof of the posting on the property. If you can't get personal service from one of our officials or officers, then we have to post the premises.
Okay. And then once they post the premises, say they take a picture of it with the date stamp or whatever.
That would be one way of establishing it. The other way is if need be, if it's challenged, we have to just establish the testimony while our zoning officer, code enforcement officers are under oath.
I think one of the questions was, I think one of the hypotheticals now, and I don't like doing hypotheticals, but I'll present it to you, is let's say somebody's in the hospital for an extended period of time, and they don't get that notice that was posted on the door. I said that I think the magistrate or even the code enforcement officer would have the discretion to address that as those issues arise. But is there concern with something like that?
No, and then just to hit the nail on the head as well with the code enforcement officer, and, you know, he is gonna have some discretion as to how to do things, just like any other police officer that works for the mayor. At times, they have to use their own discretion. We can't micromanage every little thing that they do, so there is gonna be a circumstance along the way where maybe they knock on the neighbor's door and the neighbor said, Mr. Jones or Ms. Smith is in the hospital, and they don't get cited. Or maybe we have to go in and still shovel their sidewalk, or still cut their grass, or whatever, and then, you know, we can worry about the lien later versus the actual, you know, citation that might be issued. So, yeah, there's going to be discretion involved.
Okay.
What's the purpose of this? I missed the last time we did
The-
baseball. Don't they already have an ordinance?
Yes, but it
Ticks.
gives them 10 days to
10 days to cut the grass.
cut their grass.
It's a warning, then 10 days, and a second warning. So it's really like 20 days, or 3 weeks.
Council had wanted some specific timelines to just make it black and white as to how the time would flow from the time that you got your first warning to your second warning till the time that you would be cited to the time that they would come in and take action themselves, cut the grass, basically.
And it wouldn't kick in.
How to do it, and I don't.
It wouldn't kick in until you exceed the height limit allowed in New York, 6 inches. So what I think was happening, some people were waiting, they weren't cutting their grass for more than a month. And based on how long it took us to process everything. So, we had one property on the avenue, and I know we had like a 2-foot high grass, I think it was on Colonial or Sunset. All right. We have a motion and a second on that, we have one on it.
No, we didn't get a vote first or second.
Oh, we didn't get a vote for a second, so is there a move by Mr. Craig,
Second?
second by Ms. Craig on the question. Kind of hash that out. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Next one, I'll give a little background before I ask for the motion. I'm asking to meet a special meeting at 7:15 on July 15th in order to act on this ordinance. And also, there might be one other thing we might have to do on the 15th. And then, also the same part of this motion, that's another work session. Frank and I will also be on vacation on the scheduled August 5th meeting. Rob will be gone. I'm not certain of Betty and Rick at this point, so I think it's prudent just to cancel that meeting at this point. On August 19th, we're set for awarding the sewer project bids. So I think it, based on that information, it's good to cancel the 5th meeting and just schedule the regular meeting for the 19th. So that's why I propose this. So with that said, I entertain a motion to schedule a special meeting for July 15th at 7:15 for general purposes. Cancel the August 5th meeting and reschedule it for August 19th. Mr. Craig.
Second.
Second by Mr. Michaels. Question?
You want me to advertise each of those?
I would, Sam, we can advertise that together, right?
Yeah,
The
you
two meetings?
certainly can advertise them together.
And the cancellation, we don't necessarily have to advertise, we just have to post, right?
Cancellation of the August 5th meeting, I would make that, I would suggest in the language for the advertisement for the August 19th meeting, we indicate that the regular meeting
Okay.
scheduled for August 5th has been canceled, and therefore it has not.
We should still post the meeting room and,
We're gonna post everything, but we're gonna advertise all of them.
Yeah, I put it in.
And you can put it in the same ad where you're
Okay.
changing the date.
right? Okay.
Similar to the language we use at the beginning of the year when
Right.
a holiday falls on a Monday, something
Right.
similar to that.
Okay.
Barbara called me if she has any questions.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Open discussion. Barbara, do you just want to talk about the sewer project?
Quad 3 was working on getting the bid documents, and there were a few minute changes that we wanted to go over with John Williams from USDA. I understand that Mark Boyack has contacted him and they've made those changes. I spoke with Mike Anderson late this afternoon, and we had to finalize all that so that we changed our bid date. It was just advertised so that it'll be here for the 3rd of July, with bids coming back for the 31st of July. And then we would be able to have the opening at 12 noon, and then award for the August 19th meeting. My only question was, do you want to have a special meeting for that 12 noon? Can I put that together as opening bid documents and then forwarding everything to?
Sam, a bid opening doesn't have to be publicly advertised, it just has to be open to the public, right?
Yes.
Right, it has to be open to the
You know,
public.
we can,
I wouldn't schedule a special meeting for that.
but the actual bid specs, when they're in the paper,
It says
It
that.
says.
it's gonna say when they're gonna be open.
Right, but what I'm saying is we don't have to schedule a special council meeting for that.
Not to open them, but you're not gonna act upon them, you're just gonna open them
Open them
and
and-
collate them, and, yes,
Yes.
but that should be done publicly.
Right.
And that date and time and location should be disclosed in the
Bid ad.
It
bid
is.
ad, that goes in the paper as well. So the public know they can come here and watch the opening.
Right.
Yes, but no action will be taken on it, and then
Right.
it'll be voted on later on at the meeting. Correct.
So that was the reason for the changes. I'd like to try and see that we can move forward with this hopefully for the end of August, that we can have some construction started.
Any questions on that project? Okay, I'm going to open up to residents and taxpayers. Joe, I'm sorry.
One other thing under open discussion.
Yes.
I believe it was like the work session that we discussed the proposal that Chief Hunsinger and Barbara came up with on vehicle enforcement. And I saw in the report sheet that Officer Casella has started the training.
He did one of the phases required for this.
Okay. And along with that, I think there was a proposal for a vehicle at a very low interest rate. Do we have on that now, or are we waiting on that? Or?
It's really up to the council at this point.
The clock must be ticking on that interest rate proposal. They
I
won't
know
hold
they
out
probably won't
forever.
hold much longer.
Well, my suggestion is somebody wants to make a motion, they certainly can do it now.
Yeah, at this-
Otherwise, the 15th we can address it.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the proposal put forth by Chief Hunsinger and our Borough Manager, Barbara Fairchild, to proceed with a vehicle purchase intended to help us on vehicle inspections, etc.
Would you be able to clarify that for which vehicle? Because we did
New vehicle
propose
for vehicle
Okay.
a
inspection.
sedan, an SUV.
Don't ask them.
It was the new Ford SUV.
The expedition.
The Expedition?
No, it was a question between the Expedition and what was the other one? I know you were in favor of the Expedition, right, Rob?
Well, I had said I was in favor of the expedition as long as those, provisions were met. I would ask you to include them
Didn't we just get one for $1?
in your motion as well.
I respect what you said, Rob, but I don't think that we can actually put those provisions with, I mean, any employee can go through that type of training and then they can leave.
No, I'm not, well, that's true, okay? But my main concern is I don't want us to go out and buy a $45,000 expedition, okay?
I
And
think the
then
highest
these
was
things,
40,000.
wasn't it $45,000 once everything was in it?
At least 30.
Yeah.
Well, it was more than 30.
Yeah, but I'm saying, yeah, you at least figure 30.
The base price on an expedition right now is $40,000 before there's any kind of police.
Could I go into the office and get that so I don't have a problem? Honestly,
Yes, well, how about I suggest this, that we address it after the executive session, give Barbara time to pull that file.
I apologize.
And then at that time-
But that's not executive session material,
We're
is
not
it?
going to talk about executive session, we're going to
You
address it
said
after
we'd
the
like
executive
to
session.
address it.
Address something, but not talk about
And at that point, when I do my motion, I'll ask you for your recommendation on which vehicle, since this is your area of expertise, which vehicle you feel comfortable with.
Why don't they do it with the 10 million? They put the money for the
Withdraw your motion.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion at this time and redo it at a later time in the meeting.
Bring it.
Anybody else? Okay, I'll open it up to residents, taxpayers, and comments, petitions for general purposes. I have two people that indicated they wish to address council. I'll allow those two people to go first, and I'll open it up to anybody else. Phil Mertz, if you could please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Phil Mertz, 19 Virginia Terrace. Mr. President, Council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Falcone, I've addressed the issue with Coral's property, leading water over onto Elizabeth Street into my garage. I took 1.5 feet of water in this last rainstorm that we had. When this first occurred, I was told, well, it's a once in a rare event it could happen. It's happened 3 times now. When I was outside putting tarps and sandbags in the middle of the storm, the water was up to my knees. Now, I'm not mistaken. My understanding is that Mr. Coral completed the paving on his property without proper permits at that time. If Mr. Coral could go ahead and create this issue, and council's going to sit here and not take any stand against what he did, I would like to propose that we build a dam protecting my property. And I will have no problem hiring a contractor such as Mr. Miracle to come in and put something up so that I don't have to keep my wife's car outside the garage, because if I need to get it out, I will lose everything in the basement of the house.
Okay, let me.
Am I mistaken in my understanding? Please address me.
You are correct in the understanding that permits were not pulled, and land development plans were also not.
Because that road was never there originally.
So the road was always there.
Was it?
Yeah.
It was a railroad track and bushes and a loading dock back there.
Joe, if I could.
Yes.
There's never a road there.
Quad 3 had been out there multiple times. In addition to that, Bradley Engineering was also out there with us.
I didn't see it back there.
I think Connolly Engineering, who was representing Mr. Coral maybe at the time. So here's one of the issues, and what Mr. Mertz just represented is exactly correct. So a normal storm falls, there's not an issue. There was a catch basin that was placed there. A couple of the issues happens when you have this continuous rain over a couple of days. I don't know if it's ground saturation or what, but then there's definitely a problem. And as you know, when we first looked at this, the barricades that were there were actually acting as a dam, and they were, because of the silt and stuff building up against them, was directing the water over to the catch basin, which is not catching the water that's going onto the property. So there's no question that the catch basin needs to be moved to solve the problem that happens in these periods. That seem to be happening more frequently than not. And as you said, we were out there, we've looked at it multiple times. The other issue is that when they built the lot, they curbed the lot with an asphalt curb around the perimeter, and there's some trees and landscaping there. And my understanding, and it was before our involvement here, was that prior to that, the water could sort of, well, first of all, it wasn't water blacktop, and second of all, it could run straight. And then I think compounding the problem is that at some point, and I always forget the name, there's a business or two behind it that were forced to remove their leaders out of the storm system. Now, yeah, they're dumping it onto their property, which is what they're supposed to be doing, but now you have that water as well. So there's no question that, that needs to be moved. I did speak to it, and it's been a while. I did speak to Mr. Coral and his attorney, who was Harry Skeen, a couple months back, and basically indicated to them what we had found. And essentially, the other thing that happened on top of it, as you know, the last, I don't know, maybe 16 months, cleaning and cammering of the sewers occurred. There was, and that was the last time I communicated with you, and we spoke and I left you a message, that there was some silt and stuff discovered in Virginia Terrace and Elizabeth Street, I believe, and that was cleaned. So we had not had an incident until, you said last week, correct? So there needs to be some remediation there. What I propose is that we take a look at it, we give you a suggested recommendation, and go back to Coral and talk to him about. In the last conversation I had with he and his attorney, they were not adverse to, contributing to the repair of this.
Maybe Steve, maybe.
That's why I left it.
Somebody can help me here. There was never a land development plan submitted for that, right? To address these improvements? Isn't that what we
to
were-
address these.
The paving and the landscaping?
There were, at one point prior to my existence in 44, plans submitted by Coral for land development through that area. But I don't have enough information to give you an accurate answer at this time.
Okay.
I also spoke with Mr. Coral last week, and he was going to be out of town and was going to contact me next Tuesday or Wednesday. So maybe we can try and set up a meeting with him about that as well.
I mean, personally, and I've seen situations like this before, I don't think it's an impossible fix. I think it's a matter of that basin that's off at an angle from your property, not being in a spot where it does anything to prevent the problem. It's kind of higher up, and when the water comes, it sort of rolls around and runs on the edge of your property. That's why obviously sandbagging it and creating a temporary dam stops it from coming over. But it goes to the low spot, and the low spot's over on your side of the street.
Or is there any, are we addressing this at all in the sewer project?
I have to double check.
That was an issue that was red flagged in, I think, that study that we did on each of the streets. But I'm certain that that was one that was marked.
Okay. Well, we'll have to see if it's being addressed in the sewer project. Okay.
Well, the problem is that it's not just my property.
Right.
I mean, when I have a foot and a half of water sitting in front of my garage door, that water curls around and goes up Virginia Terrace. Mr. Bellis here can tell you, Mr. Gillen is not here, he had to move his cars because they were by the catch basin. He was using the hook to make sure they were clear, and the water was halfway up his lawn. So that water just doesn't affect me, it affects everybody that's on Virginia Terrace. So I'm not sure if the catch basin is the problem. I think there has to be a better diversion of the flow. But I think the biggest problem is that the project was allowed to continue. It went to completion. There has been no movement against the gentleman who did this. Now, this gentleman put a suit against the borough, from my understanding, this was an Amato lawsuit up in Park Summit that he modeled after. So it was completely irrelevant to what this is about, because it's about ingress and egresses. So I think that in lieu of doing something over the course of the next 2 years, why don't we put some barrier back there, at least on half that road, so when the rain comes around, I don't have to get out in the middle of the night or worry about my car being outside or not having to clean up contaminated water that is now sitting in my garage that is now ruining some furniture that I had on storage on pallets. So I don't think it's an unreasonable request. I think I've been more than reasonable over the last 3 years, and I don't want to wait 12 years for a flood mitigation issue. I would really like to get this thing taken care of in the next 12 days. Okay, I'm not gonna, I gotta sandbag my garage tonight with the help of my neighbor, so, and now I cannot use my garage until this inclement weather that they're calling for goes away. Okay, so I would really like to request some action, some immediate action, because the problem was created and it has been let go.
Yeah.
Sam, what are our options here?
I need to review some of the stuff that Stephen was talking about, and we could go from there. I don't think that we have the right, and I've said this to council before, to just block off the ingress and egress from that side. And I think there's legal issues with that.
But there was never a road that connected to that property on that connected to the street. There was railroad tracks there and an open field. That road was never connected to the end of that street.
And
It was blocked by the railroad tracks. Now you were playing hide and seek back there, that's why you know.
And Attorney Sam, also, just to clarify, if you look at the pole at the corner of Elizabeth and Virginia Terrace, there is a sign that clearly states, no outlet. If that means no outlet, that means there was not a road there.
That's right.
So those barriers, and I know you're the attorney of record, but that Amato lawsuit was about ingress and egress of one site. They took away that's the suit that was filed against the borough that they used as the example.
He actually filed a lawsuit.
Well, he tried a lawsuit and he immediately took the barriers away because you didn't have anything to fight him with, but he's the one who's completely in the wrong.
Right.
So I'm really sorry that the borough sat back, unless it's an issue that there's something I'm missing here. 3 years now, I really think it's time that we step up. Don't block the whole thing off, block half of it off. Block my half of it off. So when the water comes on the corner, it backs up and I don't have to worry about it. And then if you want to get by with a small car, great. No more trucks coming through there, no more FedEx, no more UPS, no more garbage trucks flying up and down. I have no problem with that. But just please do something, because it's really aggravating.
Let me recommend a couple things that we can do here over the next few days. Is Sam and Steve to communicate about what may have been done or what may not have been done, and what actions we can take there. Like, can you ask someone from Quad 3 to go out and look at what solutions we do have to prevent flooding?
Yeah, I mean, I know Rich Kresge from our office has been out there extensively and has solutions to it. You know,
If he can come up with a temporary solution and a permanent solution, at the same time, Robert, can you look at these sewer project plans to see if it is going to be addressed? And if not, then
I know
what?
there's a section, I believe, but I just can't remember if it's that part.
So,
yeah, and Mr. Ernst, let me be very clear. I wasn't merely suggesting that it's only you that's having an issue, because I was out there with you, with other people, and we know what happens when the water gets extensive and it goes around the corner. To be perfectly honest, if it happens in the winter and it rains, you can have an ice issue there. So there's a whole other issue. So I just want to be very clear. It was not just merely addressing you.
Okay.
Because you're here.
I'm okay, because you can address me.
Right.
Okay? And if you address my issue, that should take away the other issues on the rest of the street.
so can we, those three things that we're going to do over the next week, right? Over the next couple of days, we can figure out, so the council is okay with this. Sam and Steve are going to communicate.
Just so everybody knows, and I know you know, and council knows, but any land development issues is not this council.
Right.
If a hiccup occurred, and I'm not saying it did, but it didn't occur at this table,
Planning Commission.
or the zoning hearing.
Or zoning hearing board, right.
Which is fine, we can pass
I
it
just-
on to whomever we want.
Well, it's not a matter of passing the ball, I just want you to know, it's not that these people didn't take action, that you needed to help you out, you know, that's
No,
what
but
I'm trying to say.
But what I'm saying is, for 3 years now, I've stood up at this podium.
You're right.
Asking for help.
Absolutely
And
right.
for 3 years, I haven't gotten anything.
Right.
So now tonight, I would really like, if we could, to come up with a solution so that I don't have to be out in the middle of the night saying,
And to be honest with you, what you just said is completely accurate. The last time we spoke, I brought you up to speed, and nothing happened since then. So, to be honest with you, I mean, you know, I think from our end, what we assumed was the cleaning out of the pipes was ample to handle. Obviously, it's not. You had a problem again. So here we are.
Three things we're doing. Sam and Steve are going to look at that. Quad 3 is going to look at temporary permanent solutions, and Barbara's going to, at the same time, kind of hang out with that, see if it is addressed. And if not, maybe we can add an addendum to the bid to address this project. Or a permanent solution. Maybe we come up with a temporary solution. Now, if we do something, is that going to impact your use of your property? If we do put up a temporary whatever,
if you put a temporary barrier that still allows me to be able to get it out of my garage, it won't impact my property at all. Okay, and you know the condition of the road there. They tried to pave it, we would prefer not to have it paved. Slows traffic down, it's like a reverse speed bump process. So we're all pretty pleased with that's occurred. So I have no problem with the recommendation you come up with, as long as I know that I'm not gonna have to deal with water coming into the garage again. I can safely park the vehicle there and get it out in the middle of the storm. And also, when that water turns going up Virginia Terrace, that the other residents who live on that street won't have to be out in the middle of the storm making sure that their cars aren't going to float away. They have the police were there. They had to block off certain intersections because it was literally a river. And this happened on several occasions. So, that, you know, my homeowners will cover my losses, and I think that when we spoke last, Mr. Coral was waiting to see what Mr. Merrill was going to do and try to do something inclusive. He's done. His project is finished. Okay, he went by the book. He went through all the conditions.
you're right. I'm not disputing what you're saying. You're absolutely correct. So,
Thank you
take
very
care over
much.
the next couple of days, okay?
Thank you very much.
Charlie Bell?
Charlie Bell, 89 Virginia Terrace, Mr. Mertz's neighbor. Before I get to my little problem, I'd just like to agree with everything that Bill said. It is a major issue there. What I'm about to bring up should take a back seat to this. because this is a priority for not just Bill, but for all the residents of Virginia Terrace. Now, what I wanted to address the council is parking on Virginia Terrace. It is a major, major problem. We used to park in our driveways. I could get 2 cars in my driveway. I left the space open for people to walk through, but about 2.5 months ago, that all changed. Everybody got tickets for parking in their driveways. Now, there's nowhere to park on Virginia Terrace. If you go down the street most nights, 8:30, 8:45, you're not gonna find one spot to park. I was out the other night, came home about 9 o'clock. The only spot in the whole street was in front of 48 Virginia Terrace. I live at 89. Now, this is a problem on normal days. You take holidays, people who have cookouts, there is nowhere to park, nothing to do. So I have 3 possible suggestions or solutions, and I talked to Mr. Boats on that one. I talked to him on the phone about 2 months ago. 1, we could allow parking on both sides of the street, which I'm not really in favor of. It would make the street awful narrow for passing. There would be a safety issue, and during the winter, when it comes time to plow the streets, plows wouldn't be able to do it. So I don't think that's a good idea. The second would be to allow us to park back in our driveways again, but with the provision.
Excuse me, could you please clarify what you're saying, that you were ticketed for parking in your driveway?
Yes. I came and made the fine.
What were you blocking, or what were you doing wrong that they cited you? Did they tell you?
Well, on the ticket, there was, I forget now exactly what it read.
Was the car parked over the driveway?
Well, it was partly on the sidewalk, yes.
Oh, well, that could be.
Yeah, that's probably why I was thinking.
Right, but there were several residents
Why
on
you
the
pull the
street.
car back further? And as long as it's not covering the
Well,
sidewalk,
the
there's no
point
problem.
I was going to make is when I park my car, I always leave enough space between the 2 cars so somebody even in a walker could get through. They wouldn't have to go out into the street or up in somebody's yard.
So, I'm just trying to understand the scenario. So you have one person in the driveway past the sidewalk, and then you park.
The second car behind you.
Behind it, is that on the, is that?
That is it, part of the driveway and part of the sidewalk, but there's enough room in between for people to walk through.
Okay. So that's why they were cited, for blocking the sidewalk, right?
Yes. But now, without us being able to park there, it's really a problem.
Why not just pull the first car back further, so you can fit 2 cars in there without...
Well, I can't go back further all the way.
So
There's a fence
those
there.
don't have the depth of the property.
Right, that's it, yeah. And I have no problem, like I said, I always leave space for people to get through.
See, maybe I don't understand what happened. Was there, like, did somebody do this on their own? Was there a direction? Was there complaints?
If you recall, the last 2 or 3 meetings, there was complaints about people parking on sidewalks. Across the sidewalk. So I did issue a directive that if anyone saw vehicles parked blocking the sidewalk, that they were to be handled appropriately.
Okay.
That's something I can imagine is that they were blocking the sidewalk, and the opposite felt
But everyone on the street got it, no matter how the car was parked. Everybody that had pulled into their driveway had a ticket. It was the same day, no matter where you park, it seemed in 44, the same, we're not looking for parking permits, everybody did have parking permit.
This happened like overnight? Was that-
Yes, overnight.
Yeah.
Yes. But like I said, we need a place to park, there's so many
It could
cars.
very well have been the day after the council meeting, because that's when I issued the directive.
That very well could be, I couldn't tell you exactly.
I don't think we can allow people to park on the sidewalk.
No, but going back to what we talked about a little earlier, an officer has a little bit of discretion when it comes to.
Yeah.
So, Chief, maybe one thing we can do in the interim is perhaps.
I think the concern was, looking at the walker, is she able to get through with the walker?
Well, I just use that as an example. I don't know anyone that goes through with a walker, but I do leave room for people to go
The
through.
handicapped person able to get through with a wheelchair?
Yes, I leave enough from, I'm speaking for me personally, I can't speak for every person on Virginia Terrace. But yes, I do leave enough room.
What I would recommend, you have a cell phone that takes pictures.
Yes,
If you receive another ticket, take a picture of the car, how it's parked, and bring it in and show me.
because I'm not the only one that has this problem. Like I said, there's just nowhere to park in Virginia Terrace. Everybody has 2 or 3 vehicles, I mean, times have changed.
There's just, Number one, there's no easy way to find more parking.
No, and if we go over to the next street, park over there, then people over there are gonna have their 20 parking. So it's just a, sort of a catch-22.
Yeah, so we have no municipal parking lots, nowhere to put ones.
Right, that's right. We don't even have any off-street parking or anything, so.
And it's a problem borough-wide. If you come down my street tonight, there's nowhere to park on my street. But I happen to have a driveway I can park a couple cars in, so I look out that one. But Chief, maybe what you can do
As
is,
far as I would be concerned, if a wheelchair can get through, then it's accessible.
maybe perhaps you can review that street and just see what your thoughts are. Maybe have a conversation with the officers about it. And I'll allow you to look at that. Other than that, the only other thing we can do is probably look at the two-sided parking, to allow them parking, but we don't.
Not crazy about
That
that
would be a good
idea.
idea for our.
I'm just saying that's the only real
Streets
solution.
in the wintertime.
We can't pass an exception to allow people to park on sidewalks on one street.
I understand that too.
So-
And also if you think of emergency vehicles getting access to these places.
Well, there's minimum street widths that are required to have two-sided parking anyway, so we'd have to have the engineers go out and survey that. But,
This meeting is going to be long.
so,
Well,
that's my
solution
solution.
address the issue, or at least attempt to address the issue.
So if you, perhaps maybe what you can do, Chief, maybe what he can do proactively is he can park in his driveway, show you how he's parking, and then come in and ask you your opinion on that.
That'd be fine.
So maybe perhaps you can do that in the next couple of days. Take a picture of how you're parking, show, or maybe you can make arrangements, or one of the officers can go down and.
Are you going Wednesday?
Should be.
Okay, I'll stop by Wednesday.
Okay, now the only problem will be my wife's car won't be there because she'll be at work, so so we know where to prove to you that's how I do it.
We'll use my car to show them.
Okay, fair enough. Good enough.
Okay?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to address council at this time?
I have one thing I forgot about, Joe.
Okay.
Mr. Percy Diefenbach was in, he has an Eagle Scout, Chris Ortolani, and he would like to start working on the project for Penny,
Okay.
for the signage for Penny. I don't have any other details, but I did want to make council aware of that we do have an Eagle Scout who will be doing that project.
Can we just see a design before they go ahead?
Of course.
Okay.
I think they would have to base that on what council would approve.
Okay.
And he'll need council approval, he'll need like a resolution from council in order for it to be.
Let's go. Okay. Maybe you can contact him, see if you can have something maybe for the 15th meeting, if not.
I will.
Okay. Entertain a motion to pay the bills as presented.
I'm going to ask a quick question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I recently had an inspection, a full inspection, and I understand we went paperless in our code enforcement department. I don't know why that is. I personally think if you're going to come out and inspect my property, I'd like a hard copy right there and then so I can see what you.
You didn't get a copy?
I got it emailed to me, we're paperless now. I have a concern about that. 'cause I
Right,
really
I mean,
think-
there's elderly folks that don't have.
All right.
So is there anything we can do about that?
Mr. Swift, just to calm your concerns, I do offer to print them out and deliver them to the residents. But also to calm Ms. Martinelli's concerns, I will step away from my green initiative and where I took my own time and money to develop electronic-based inspection reports. And I will pull them and I'll instruct both of my employees to no longer use them, which reminds me we will need to order new inspection forms because we have run out on certain forms.
It's just
What
good
is
to
the
have a hard
cost on
copy.
that?
Pardon?
What would the cost be on that now?
What is that?
Ordering new inspection
forms.
forms?
Oh, I'm not sure. It's been a long time since we needed to order them. But I will.
How do you know it would be an alternative to something else then, if you didn't even explore that?
Why shouldn't
So I'm
we
saying-
look at if someone wants a paper copy that they can?
I offer it. Oh, I offer it. But to print it, but we will no longer use the electronic inspection reports.
I think it's good when an inspector's there doing, and they're checking off things, you know what the inspection report looks like. You're handed that copy, you have it in your possession, not, I'm gonna go back and email it to you. Or if you don't have a borough building,
I respect
I'm
that.
paying for the service when I purchase the permit. And I would think other taxpayers might feel that way.
Right.
Or maybe we can you can look at that as a borough manager. Maybe we can do something like the police do for reports. If people want to pay for reports, it should be an additional fee for that. All right. I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills as presented.
Second.
Mr. Michael, second by Mr. Martelli. Question? Those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. This time we're going to adjourn to an executive session. Sam, do you have any specifically for the executive session?
No.
Okay.
No, I do not.
So Rob, you requested, what's your purpose for executive session?
For personal matters related to the board's office.
Okay. Submission staff? Okay. We're going to executive session.
Okay.